Timmy was only 9 years old, quiet and gentle, with big brown eyes and a mop of messy hair. He was the kind of kid who didn't speak much in class, but when he did, people listened. He had a calm way about him, like he was always thinking about something deeper. Timmy had moved to a new town just 2 months ago with his mom. His dad was gone, no one asked why. His mom looked tired most days, but she still packed him lunch and kissed his forehead every morning before school. Most kids didn't know much about Timmy. He didn't play during recess, and often sat alone, staring at something in his hand, a small, smooth rock. He kept it in his pocket, always touching it like it held some kind of secret. His teacher, Mrs. Jenkins, was kind and patient. She noticed Timmy, even if he tried not to be noticed. That's why, when it was Timmy's turn for show and tell, everyone was surprised he volunteered. Show and tell was every Friday. Most kids brought toys, pets, or pictures of their vacations. Some told jokes or showed off cool gadgets. But Timmy stepped up to the front of the class with just a rock in his hand. It was smooth and round, the size of a plum, with streaks of orange and black running through it. Nothing fancy, just a rock. At first, a few kids giggled. One whispered, "It's just a rock." Another said, "That's not special." But Timmy held it tight, looked up, and took a deep breath. He said, "This isn't just a rock, it's the last thing my brother gave me." The room fell quiet. You could feel the air change, like everyone suddenly realized this wasn't going to be a regular show and tell. It happened the summer before Timmy moved to the new town. Back then, he lived in a different house, in a different world, one where his big brother Tommy still laughed, ran, and made everything feel okay. Tommy was 13, loud and silly, always making up stories and games. He and Timmy were best friends. Every afternoon, they went on rock hunts in the woods near their home. They had a little rule: no phones, no maps, just adventure. That summer was their best one. They found weird-shaped stones, made up names for them, and kept the best ones in a shoebox they called their treasure chest. Then one day, Tommy got sick, really sick. It started with a fever, and it never really went away. Timmy stood there, holding the rock, as his eyes glistened. He whispered, that summer was the last time he was healthy. If you've ever had someone you love give you something that means the world, like this video, tell us in the comments what your most treasured item is. Subscribe for more stories that touch your heart. Now, let's find out where this story truly lives. Timmy's old home was in a quiet little neighborhood near a forest. The woods behind the house were their magic place. The trees stood tall, like guardians, and the sunlight came through the leaves in golden streaks. There was a small river nearby, and the boys built a secret fort using sticks and an old tarp. That's where they'd sit and talk for hours. They gave names to trees and made paths with chalk. It was their world, one no one else knew about. The rock, the one Timmy held now, came from that secret fort. It was sitting in the middle of the river one day, glowing in the sunlight. Tommy had picked it up and handed it to Timmy. "This one's for you," he'd said. "It's the best one we've ever found." Timmy's voice cracked a little as he spoke, but he kept going, his fingers gently rubbing the stone. Tommy had known he was getting weaker. He couldn't run like before, and some days, he just stayed in bed. But he still smiled for Timmy. He still told stories, still made up games they could play lying down. One night, after a long hospital visit, Tommy asked their mom if he could go to the fort one last time. They wrapped him in a blanket and took him there. That's when he found the rock. Or maybe he had already picked it and saved it for that moment. He handed it to Timmy and said, "So when I'm not here, you still have me close." Timmy had never cried so hard in his life. That was the last time they were in the woods together. Back in the classroom, Timmy paused. He looked around at his classmates. Most of them had tears in their eyes. Now, after Tommy passed, everything changed. Timmy's mom couldn't stay in the house anymore. It was too full of memories. So they packed up and moved to Willow Bend, where no one knew their story. Timmy brought only one thing from the treasure chest: the rock. At school, he didn't talk much. He didn't know how to explain the feeling of losing your best friend and brother. He didn't know how to tell kids that the thing he held in his hand wasn't just a rock. But when Mrs. Jenkins gently asked him to do show and tell, and he saw the kids laughing and sharing, something inside him whispered, "It's time." So he stood there, not to impress anyone, but to remember someone. And as he told the story, the rock didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt warm, like love. And then, something beautiful happened that Timmy never expected. At first, no one moved. The classroom was so quiet, you could hear the hum of the overhead lights. Timmy stood at the front, holding that small rock, like it was made of glass. Then, slowly, a girl in the second row stood up. Her name was Lucy. She always wore purple hairbands and sat with her hands folded perfectly on her desk. "I have my grandma's scarf," she said softly. "It still smells like her perfume. I wear it when I miss her. I miss her a lot." Then, behind her, Ben raised his hand but didn't wait to be called. "I still keep my dad's baseball glove," he said. "He used to throw catch with me every weekend before he moved out. I sleep with it under my bed." One by one, more voices followed. "My brother's in the army. I write letters to him every week," whispered Sarah from the corner. "I still have the blanket from when my dog passed away," said Jake. "My mom gave me a bracelet before she went to the hospital. I wear it every day." Kids weren't laughing anymore. They were remembering. They were sharing. And most importantly, they were connecting. Even Mrs. Jenkins, standing near her desk, wiped her eyes and placed a hand gently over her heart. Something real had just happened in that room. Something that didn't come from a textbook. When the bell rang for lunch, no one ran to the cafeteria like they usually did. They waited for Timmy. They walked with him. Some of them gave him soft hugs without saying a word. Others asked quiet questions. "What was your brother's favorite game? Did he like pizza or burgers more? Do you think he'd like our class?" Timmy smiled for the first time that day. Not a little smile, but a real one. The kind that starts in the chest and works its way to the lips. At lunch, Timmy didn't sit alone. He sat at the middle table, surrounded by kids who had once only seen him as the quiet new boy. Now they saw him as someone brave, someone who loved deeply. And as they sat there, passing around the rock, each kid held it carefully, like it was a piece of gold. They didn't hold it because it was shiny or rare. They held it because it was full of something they all understood: love. Sometimes, the smallest thing can carry the biggest story and bring people closer than we ever thought possible. The rock wasn't special to anyone at first, just a round little thing with streaks of color. But now, it was more than that. It held a memory, it held a goodbye, and it held a love so strong, it brought a whole class together. That day, Timmy learned something his brother had tried to show him all along. When you share what's in your heart, you give others permission to do the same. Even if it hurts, even if it's scary, even if your voice shakes when you say the words. Because inside every person, there's a story waiting to be heard. And sometimes, that story lives in a scarf, or a glove, or a small simple rock. The classroom changed after that day. It wasn't just desks and pencils anymore. It became a safe place, where kids talked more kindly, listened more carefully, and understood that everyone carries something inside them that doesn't always show on the outside. They weren't just classmates now. They were something more, a little family, holding each other's stories like treasures. And Timmy, he still keeps that rock in his pocket. Not because he's trying to hold on to pain, but because he's proud. Proud of the love he had. Proud of the brother who gave him something that couldn't be broken, not by time, not by distance, not even by death. Because sometimes, it's not the size of the gift that matters, it's the love that lives inside it. Did this story touch your heart? Give it a like to show your love. Comment below, what's one item you'll never throw away, because it holds a memory. Subscribe for more stories that remind us how beautiful love, loss, and connection can be.